Does anybody have any opening jokes?
I actually don't.
Wow, Jacob. It's like you're one of 7 jobs.
I know.
What the fuck is wrong
It's
with
the
you?
most important job.
No, definitely editing. But second most important.
You're the one editing this week!
Oh, this week, yes.
Why buy a comic that might cost more than a dime? Come meet the brothers who are here to waste your time.
So welcome back to the Dime Comic Bros podcast. Since I've been fired from the opening joke, I'm going to do the intro from now on.
Damn, what do I get?
You get to sit there and look great.
Thanks.
No,
So-
he's here to make us look better.
That other voice is Colin
Hi.
and Spencer.
Ooh, woo.
Welcome back to our show. This is the official beginning of season 2, ladies and gentlemen.
Yeah, boy.
Woo!
That's my cheeks clapping.
Speaking of cheeks clapping, let's get into some comic book news. What do we got?
So, we got a new trailer for The Suicide Squad. It was cryptically, quote-unquote, leaked by the squad themselves and then officially posted on DC's YouTube page a couple of hours later.
It is obvious that they are flexing their bigger budget on this movie.
Definitely.
Definitely, especially with all the CGI characters.
Yeah, and the massive collateral damage.
Kaiju.
Yes.
Kaiju.
Weasel!
I'm very excited for Starro.
I'm very excited for Weasel.
That's because you are a weasel, man.
Dude, everything about him just screams me.
Yes.
And I'm like, wow, I love this man. He's just licking the walls and he's just like, crackhead energy.
I feel like...
Colin was the one licking the windows on the school bus.
I was!
That's definitely true. I think it's weird because I think when this was announced, I was more excited than I am now. Like, I'm going to watch it. I'm looking forward to it, but I'm not, like, super hyped. The characters I look forward to are the ones, frankly, we've already been introduced to. Like, I like Rick Flag. I find him interesting. I like Harley Quinn, duh. Like, the recurring characters I already find more interesting. I have no issue with what they're doing. It's just... something isn't going to my hype brain. Nothing seems off or anything. There's one thing that is bothering me, which is the fairly clear, and I think somewhat well-known public discourse that, it's Bloodshot, or is it Bloodsport?
I think it's
Idris Elba's
Bloodsport.
character is a character from the comics who is nearly identical to Deadshot because this movie was originally written to have Deadshot in it. And then because of, like, contract problems and whatever, they couldn't get Will Smith. So it was, like, rewritten in pre-production, which is fine. Like, there's nothing wrong with that. It's not like it's James Gunn's fault. It does feel a little weird where it's like, we have leading black guy who shoots good and has daughter problems as, like, the main protagonist. Like, it feels weird because they're two separate characters going through essentially the same arc. When it's intended to have been, like, one person, it would have made more sense. And that's sitting in the back of my head. It's not, like, a huge deal. It's just weird.
Yeah, I mean, this whole movie is basically a, like, spiritual rewrite of Suicide Squad anyway. So I feel kind of all right about it, but I understand your point.
Yeah, like, it doesn't, like, deeply bother me. It's just, like, on, like, a screenwriting level, it's like, that's hard to deal with.
Yeah, I didn't realize that until you pointed it out to me when I watched the trailer, but I'm most excited for Polka Dot Man, Weasel, King Shark,
Yes.
and Starro.
Okay, King Shark, yes. I do think the something I'm looking forward to for sure is the fact that this does take place after Birds of Prey canonically, so this is Harley Quinn's 3rd movie. I'm wondering where we're going with
This
that.
is just a Harley Quinn-centered universe now.
Well,
Am I
we don't know
wrong?
which Batman and which Superman are canon anymore, kinda, which is sad. DC's in a weird spot, man.
I like that they're
Yep.
just rolling with it.
Yeah.
Like, don't set an established timeline. Just make movies, and if they flop, move on.
Yes.
I don't need everything to be interlinked.
Interlinked. Speaking of interlinked, new Shang-Chi and the Legend of the Ten Rings trailer came out. And I have to say, hot take, I don't like that the rings are on his wrists and I want them
Right?
on his fingers.
Yes!
but Spencer has a good point that he should speak about.
So when I saw that, I think it's cool, but I think from a writer's room / like executive producer role, my gut says they changed it as to not cause confusion with Green Lantern. Not because comic book people can't tell the difference between worlds or whatever, but like normal people do get confused by those things, and that's dumb.
Freaking noobs.
Yeah, I know. I get it. It irritates me. I get that. But I feel like that's something that is probably being taken into account, so they're switching it up a little bit. But that's an opinion. I obviously don't know anything. It's just my gut feeling. But finally, we get Abomination returning, so that's great.
But nonetheless, the rings are really cool looking as they are.
I was concerned watching it that they were giving away most of the movie. Like, I've seen the trailer. I still want to be surprised by something when I go and watch the movie. This seemed to give away a lot of what's inside.
Honestly, I feel like this movie might not have a twist, and I kind of hope it doesn't. Like I
don't need like a mind-bending twist, but I don't need to see a scene from every. I don't need to see a shot from every scene.
Yeah, no, I definitely get that. It's giving me that very Phase 1 vibe, which I've definitely said before, which I appreciate.
It's like if the Mortal Kombat movie had shown you every background that a fight takes place in the trailer.
It kind of freaking did, though.
Yeah, and that would annoy me. That's why I don't watch trailers.
True.
Like, I want to be like, oh, they went for the freaking jungle theme level in this fight. Like, that's kind of a big deal to that kind of movie. So
that's fair.
I just want to see something new when I see the movie instead of having seen it all in the trailer, even though it's not the whole runtime or whatever.
Understandable. I can't believe this is coming out in a couple of months. Like, because Black Widow got pushed so many freaking times, and then, the whole slate moved a couple of times. This is coming out 2 months after Black Widow.
Yep. From Marvel.com, a bold new age of all caps Amazing Spider-Man is on the horizon. Starting in October, all caps Amazing Spider-Man will return with a story so bombastic that it will take the greatest team of web writers and arachnid artists ever assembled to tell it. Kelly Thompson, Saladin Ahmed, Cody Ziegler, Patrick Gleason, and Zeb Wells will team up on the thrice-monthly title to shake up the Spider-Man mythos in ways no one will see coming. The saga will kick off in all caps Amazing Spider-Man number 75, where Ben Reilly will return to take back the mantle of Spider-Man. Backed by the Beyond Corporation, the captivating clone of Peter Parker is determined to be the best version of Spider-Man there ever was. Wow. Here's what editor Nick Lowe had to say about this daring new era of all caps Amazing Spider-Man. The whole point of working on Spider-Man is trying to put new unliftable weights on top of him. Physical, metaphysical, emotional, psychological, and seeing if he can lift them. But what if that weight truly is too heavy? What if someone with the exact same skills and formative years could do better? Ben Reilly is back, and with Aunt May and Uncle Ben's lessons in the back of his mind as well, he's here to step in where Peter Parker failed. So they're bringing back Gwen Stacy? Can he accomplish things the original Spider-Man never could? These questions are what sold me on this story.
So I'm actually really looking forward to this because the most recent run by Nick Spencer has been absolutely excellent. It's partially undone a lot of the yikesy things that Dan Slott did over the years, as well as kind of bring Peter Parker back to basics, as well as back with MJ. So I'm glad that we had like I would say like a kind of like a rest period, like a return to normalcy before we're gonna get like a new regime change. And I've always liked Ben Reilly, even though the Clone Saga is absolute garbage. Ben Reilly has always just been cool. I just like the way he's written usually, and this is cool.
Cool.
I like Spider-Man.
Do you like Spider-Man, or do you like all caps Amazing Spider-Man?
I like all the Spoodermen. All the Spoodermen.
Colin, any thoughts?
No thoughts.
Me either. Colin and the Worm have spoken. Moving on. Frank.
From Marvel.com, the world outside your window is about to end. This September, New York Times best-selling writer Tom Taylor from X-Men Red and All New Wolverine, our boy, will team up with Marvel's Stormbreaker artist Iban Cielo from Venom, Black Knight, Curse of the Ebony Blade for a thrilling new vision of the Marvel Universe in Dark Ages. Foreshadowed in last year's Free Comic Book Day X-Men and in today's series of mysterious teasers, this highly anticipated limited series will see heroes from every corner of the Marvel Universe unite against a new threat and fail. Their defeat will usher in an exciting new age full of heartbreaking loss and unimaginable stakes. As the world is remade, fans will meet fascinating new versions of their favorite heroes as they fight to overcome insurmountable odds and restore hope to the universe. I'm excited to team up with the brilliant Ivan Cello on one of the most epic stories I've ever been involved in, said Taylor. Marvel's Dark Ages is a story unlike any we've ever told before, and it all begins with the shocking revelation of what the Watcher has been watching for. A danger older than the Earth threatens everything, and for once the heroes who have saved the planet time and again find themselves almost completely powerless in the face of it. X-Men and Avengers will assemble. Spider-People and the Fantastic Four will come together. Heroes for Hire will work alongside champions, but none of it will be enough. The lights are about to go out forever. Check out the cover and prepare for an all-new saga of the Marvel Universe as you've never seen it before when Dark Ages #1 hits stands on September 1st. A little asterisk at the bottom. This is confirmed by Tom Taylor via his Twitter to take place outside of main Marvel continuity.
The cover looks really good. And knowing that it's by Tom Taylor, I'm really sold on this.
Dude, the teasers were so freaking great. Like the little teaser images, we have like a Miles Morales Venom Carnage thing. Oh, just it looks really, really good.
Is it Venom Carnage? It looks like Black Panther. Unless we're talking different things here.
We might be talking about different things.
This one?
No, so that's like the main cover. There's a bunch of specific teasers.
Gotcha.
He's been teasing this one for a while. This was originally planned to come out early 2020, but because COVID, a lot of stuff had to get reshuffled, so it's been shelved for a while. So do we want to jump into our television of the week or right into the main topic?
No, main topic first.
Main topic, bitch!
Main topic.
All right. So this week we are doing a little bit of a redo of our second episode.
Remixed.
Yes.
Remastered, baby.
Except we're not...
Glorious 4K.
This is Spencer in editing. This statement made by Jacob is extremely ironic in hindsight because we had a very large amount of technical issues, most of which were not discovered until the editing process. So this episode's audio quality is actually lower than our normal standard, and I'm trying very desperately in post to sort it out, and I'm kind of failing.
Technical difficulties.
So we are going to be discussing The Dark Knight Returns, which is a 1986 4-issue comic book miniseries written by Frank Miller, illustrated by Miller and Klaus Janson, with colors by Lynn Varley, and published by DC Comics. It's Batman, of course, it's from DC Comics. It tells an alternate story of Bruce Wayne, who at 55 years old returns from retirement to fight crime and faces opposition from the Gotham Police Department and the United States government. The story also features the return of classic foes such as Two-Face and the Joker, and culminates with a confrontation against Superman, who is now a pawn of the government, and they punch a lot. They punch real good.
I'm going to come out swinging and say this Alfred kicks ass. He is so funny. He's actually funnier than the Joker in this one. He's got such good lines.
I do love when Alfred's actually funny.
I read this after watching The Dark Knight Returns. Like, I've watched it first before I read it.
Oh, the movie. The animated movie.
Yep.
Okay.
And it's weird because I didn't realize certain things. So if we go to... Well, first off, let's start with the letter. I actually really enjoyed the newsletter by the Daily Planet at the beginning of the book. Like how it hints to characters and villains, like the Penguin and such like that. I thought that was pretty neat to put in into the beginning, just to show the passage of time and such. But I enjoyed the differences between the book from the animated movie. The movie, Bruce tells Clark that they've always been criminals, but in the book we get a similar line, but from Superman's internal monologue. So a lot of the lines that I watched in the movie, I didn't realize that were actually internal monologues in the books.
Right. So
And I actually enjoyed the monologues. I thought they were better than just them having a conversation on the horse ranch. Because that was like a long scene in the movie, but in the book it just happens.
This seems crazy to me because to refresh for this episode, I watched the movie and had the book open in front of me and flicked page by page and was amazed at how close the movies are to the book. Like, yeah, how the story is presented is different. The method that the story is presented is different, but it's like frame for frame.
Pretty much.
There's a couple of things that the movie includes, so like reference to Jason being killed or little things like that. Just basic Batman history that they had to add in post because that hadn't happened yet when the book came out.
I do like that everyone has a like internal monologue, and it's not a lot. Is surprisingly enough, with all the words and all the bubbles, not a lot of the stuff is actually spoken to each other. It's just in their head, like how Superman has his monologue while he's like trying to disarm the not disarm the bomb, but like try to like redirect it, and how he has internal monologue about Bruce while he's fighting in that war.
Yeah, I think this is one of the very few Frank Miller books that doesn't overdo the internal monologue. That's one of the things he's really, really not been able to nail since like the 80s, is being able to have a lot of inner dialogue, because the narrator for this book isn't clear, and it's not a clear perspective. It bounces back and forth between like second and third person. It's just kind of there, which typically is annoying and bad because it's not clear what's going on. But somehow he makes it work, and instead of it being, it works well to build the atmosphere and get the tone of like, you know, being a little melancholic, a lot of older, more broken down people and so on, versus basically all of his later works. He does the same things because Frank Miller kind of only knows how to write one way, and it's atrocious. It's just broody, crappily written, internal, moody edginess, and it's horrible. I think this book
You don't like that in this book?
No, this book is like the only time he's been able to do it well.
Yes, I think in every way that Frank is about a book, this is the only good that's ever came out of that, except for probably Daredevil.
I don't disagree. Excluding his Daredevil run, I think this is probably Frank Miller's magnum opus.
Yep.
That's not saying a lot, to be honest, because that's what most people's opinions are. But he's written a lot of other really excellent graphic novels, a lot of garbage. But I think this is him in like individual aspects all being at their best.
So
this is not afraid to take its time. There's a lot of news reports and TV interviews and just simple conversations between characters. It's not all just crime and violence. There's a lot of downtime in this book.
So to like add on to what you said, Spencer, about the like who's the narrator, it feels like you're getting a picture of you going through characters' diaries and newsletters and watching old news recordings. That's what it feels like.
That's what I was going to say. You're getting a glimpse at a lot of different perspectives on what's happening.
So you're like going through other people's diaries and those newsletters. Yeah.
Yeah.
But also to go back to the monologue, I wanted to share one of my favorite like differences between the movie and the book that I thought the book definitely did better, which is Superman's internal monologue. Quote, "When the noise started from the parents groups and the subcommittee called us in for questioning, you were the one who laughed. That scary laugh of yours." He quotes Batman in the next two panels. Sure, we're criminals, you said. We've always been criminals. We have to be criminals. I loved that because I just love when other people like quote Batman like in the books. It just shows you how like disturbed they are about Batman or how they find him disturbing. And I love the like in almost every continuity when Batman laughs, it's scary. It's not wholesome. It's like, this is scary.
I've never seen you laugh before. I don't think I like it. Cut it out! You're giving me the creeps!
You little fool.
This is a good segment. This is a good
So I just
way to go
showed
into.
Colin the full page art of Batman first fighting the mutants when he drives the tank into their pit, basically, and he's kind of hunched over and he's grinning.
To talk about art, I absolutely love the art in this. I love almost everything, but when panels are bad, they're pretty bad. That's the thing. When they're bad, they're pretty bad, but most of this is like fantastic art. My only grievance with it is I think how the story is presented sometimes is too short. Like, they're too short with things. So the panel that Jacob showed me about Batman smiling and he's about to ready to brawl, I don't like that because I think there should have been maybe 2 or 3 panels more of him walking and getting ready to get out of the Batmobile. Now that is mainly an artistic and comic book writer like niche of mine, I guess you could say, is that I like preparation. I like being showed preparation.
You like it when Henry Cavill has to reload his biceps.
Yes, I love that. It's like you don't need it, but like it's nice to see.
I don't need it. I don't need it. I definitely don't need it. I 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 need it!
And so that's one of my grievances about.
So you don't like
about-
having to connect the dots between him being in the tank and him being out of the tank?
Sometimes it's okay. Sometimes I think it's okay, and sometimes I think I need more. So like, this is like a build up to the battle, or I felt like there should have been a little bit more, but I think it's all right. Or like when we got that scene of him holding that that military personnel. I think it was a governor that shot himself or something. It
Jumped
was
out of the building?
no, not that governor. It was a high-ranking officer in the military. He shot himself, and Batman was holding him, and he was like draped with a American flag. And I do like the difference between the movies and the movie and the comic, where in the movie we got a little bit more to that. I know that we got the story aftermath of that, but I like it before.
The movie definitely explained it better.
I think they explained quite a bit of things better, but
So
yeah.
there are 2 fight scenes in this book that really stick out to me, and they're both basically the same thing. They're like bad guys inside of a warehouse or an apartment or whatever.
Welcome to hell.
Yes!
yeah.
That line is cut from the movie, by the way. But
Which is very disappointing. That is my favorite line of the entire book.
I just love that Batman thinks outside of the box and breaks through walls and floors and whatever. Like, everybody...
Instead of going on to their level, he
Yeah.
brings them down to his.
The second fight, he opens the door and everybody is pointing their guns at the door and they just shoot through it, and that's when he breaks through the wall on a different wall, a different side of the room, and it's like, it's so good.
It is. And when I was reading this, I was sending you guys photos of like lines that were in Batman vs. Superman, and I didn't realize that until I read this. I'm like, oh, I feel so stupid because it's so fucking cool. Like, I would have gotten even more chills from those movies, but I got chills reading this book instead. When I read the lines, like read the scenes, like that scene, that fight scene right there, the one where he breaks a wall.
Yep.
Drop it. I said drop it! I'll kill her! Believe me, I'll do it! I believe you.
And then when we go to the Superman versus Batman one, where he talks about he learned a different lesson from his parents.
I bet your parents taught you that you mean something. That you're here for a reason. My parents taught me a different lesson. Dying in the gutter for no reason at all. They taught me the world only makes sense if you force it to.
That line was like, oh, man.
So, Spencer, you've been awful quiet. What do you got over there?
So on the note of like bursting through walls, that the idea of Batman kind of being like another entity that like takes over Bruce Wayne in an aspect, whether that's supposed to be interpreted literally or like his brain being segmented or whatever.
No, I think that's a really big part of this book because the first issue has the Bat entity greeting Bruce Wayne.
Mm-hmm.
Yes,
That's what brings him back.
that's where I'm going.
All right, fine.
Let me finish my sentence.
Shut up.
So you just told me to.
I know.
So I think that's one of the, aside from just the fact that this was like the first time that had been done, that was not a part of the character up until this point. And I don't think has ever really been done very well since in that aspect. It's hinted at in other iterations of the character. I think Batman Damned did that a little bit as well, where it's like a,
Definitely.
maybe it's like a spirit or like your brain's just really
Batman Forever tried doing that.
It did. Release the Schumacher cut.
Even Chase called being Batman a curse. The night of my parents' wake, Alfred, I remember running, falling, the bat. There was something else. Was it just the bat? What was I running from? Is that what all this is? A little boy being afraid of a monster in the dark?
But like I really like that, and it works well, I think, in particular with like him bursting through walls and through the floor, and like that sort of hunter on prey type action, I think is really, really, really unique to this book that I don't think is done well enough in other forms of media, even in like the Arkham series where you have like Predator sections where you're on gargoyles and you're in vents and stuff. It never quite comes across the same. And that's because obviously it's not the same interpretation of the character and whatever.
Yeah.
But I love how this is done here, where it's like when he is being Batman, he is literally, he's like, I am reborn. I am rejuvenated. I have the body of a man of 30, of 20, and he's just entirely different. And he's bursting through. This is a 55-year-old busted up big dude. He should not be bursting through walls and kicking the ever-living out of like 15 people.
Mm-hmm.
This should not be possible, but it is. And that angle just always gets me. I absolutely freaking love that. To kind of backtrack, the setting in and of itself of this like future kind of neo-noir, I don't actually know how to describe the setting of this book. Like, it doesn't fit in a specific, not genre, but like setting.
I think genre is applicable. It's not like Fallout post-apocalyptic, but there's mutants, but like the political system is pretty much the same.
Yeah, like it takes tropes from particular genres, but it doesn't fit wholesale. And that's great. It's just one of those things
Yes.
where it's like, this isn't totally noir driven or like neo-noir, and it's not like full post-apocalyptic. I don't know how to describe it. I like that. It makes it feel like this time in the future that we haven't thought of yet.
It makes it unique.
Exactly. And then what my opening point was is back-to-back reading this with Batman Year One is awesome. In either order, because it gives you the two extremes of Batman who are also in the same continuity. So you have, young, kind of naive, but like very driven and goal-oriented Batman who's still got his optimism and all that stuff. And then you have this guy who's just busted up and depressed and maybe killing people and like getting in serious trouble with every government agency on the planet.
He doesn't kill them, he just hurts them really, really badly.
Yeah, okay, sure. Like that, just getting those two extremes of the same character, they feel very symbiotic, and I love reading them back to back. That's what I did this time around, just for fun.
Symbiote.
Yeah. So I think it really exemplifies how well Frank Miller had planned out these two books, or like these two miniseries of having Batman Year One coming out after this. You can kind of see how he might have. Not how he got here, because obviously there's such a big time gap between the two, but you can fill in the gaps yourself. It gives you like a trajectory, and then you can figure out the path he took that would get him here. And I really appreciate that, because the continuity wasn't filled in yet. We didn't have that. Unlike now, where they're struggling to find new places to shove books, and you have to take into account so many other things, or like headcanon this or whatever. This is just, there's this big gap, and you can actually just figure it out yourself. And that's really, really unique.
So, somebody please hold my hand on this talking point. Thank you. Your hand is warm.
Thank you.
Carrie Kelly very clearly figures out and detectivizes the Batman and says, yo, I want to work with you. And that's wicked cool. But I don't know of too many other iterations where Carrie Kelly comes into. I think she's pretty much just held to this series.
Pretty much. I mean, has other interpretations where she's not a Robin, but she's just a character.
Like what?
I think she was at a like teenage party scene one time, and it was like a Halloween party, and she dressed up as a Robin.
So it's just background,
kind
like,
of.
just a nod.
Yeah, she's kind of just a background nod. She's not really added.
Why isn't she canon outside of this book series?
I have a point on that. Because I think she is the predecessor to Tim Drake, in a way. So Carrie Kelly was introduced in The Dark Knight Returns, which came out in 1986. Tim Drake was not a character until Batman number 436 in 1989. Both characters figured out Batman's identity, or kind of. Tim Drake obviously did. Carrie Kelly sort of.
Tim Drake figured it out but in his own way, where Carrie Kelly basically was like, oh, Batman's going to be here. She helped him into the Batmobile, or Batman's going to be here. She's going to help him into the Batmobile after he gets beat up. And she's like, hi, I'm Carrie Kelly. I mean Robin. And then Batman's like, hi, I'm Bruce.
They essentially force themselves upon Batman. Like, they are like, no, you need a Robin.
Yep.
And Batman's just like, fine.
Yep.
Well, actually, Tim Drake is Batman. It's like, Batman's fine. Where this one, it's like, you're Robin. Hi.
Not really.
Look at the panel.
He's against her for a little bit.
No, he's not.
Breath.
No, he's not. No, he is so not actually against her.
I don't remember. Freaking finish your point.
So Carrie Kelly and Tim Drake both kind of force Batman to let them be Robin to some extent or another. They weasel their way into his good graces. They figure out how to get in good with Batman. They're both, I would say, a little bit more detective oriented. They balance out Batman's brooding side. I've gone on multiple rants, mostly recently, about how Tim Drake is the best Robin, because he is Batman's perfect partner. Not because he's the best hero on his own, or he's the whatever. He is the best version of Robin to balance out Batman. He wants to be partners with Bruce Wayne. He doesn't want to be his son. He doesn't want to, I mean, he is, but like, he's not there to be his kid. Like Richard Grayson has daddy issues, obviously. Or Jason, who also has daddy issues. Damian, who also has daddy. Like, Tim Drake doesn't have daddy issues with Bruce. Like, he's just his adopted father, and like, they're cool. He's very attached to him. He's very, when Batman went missing, like during Morrison's run way back, Tim Drake kind of went crazy trying to find Batman. Like, he was distraught. He is the most equal partnership with him after a little while. Like, they work together almost perfectly. And I think for this version, that's kind of the role that Carrie Kelly fills. I think Alfred recognizes that multiple times, whereas she helps balance him out. She is obviously like the safety cone to like throw bullets at because she wears the bright colors. But like, she's there, she's a bit lighter, she's more fun, but she sees things that Batman doesn't multiple times. She saves his ass multiple times. He doesn't acknowledge it at first, and then he does after a while. And I think they have a lot of things in common personality-wise. as well as like things they accomplish. That's just my headcanon idea. I'm not even saying that's a literal, oh, we should reinterpret this as a dude and then just keep that main continuity, but I think it's heavily influenced by.
So, I agree with you that Tim Drake is influenced by her entirely. Like, I completely agree with you. But the difference between them is that Batman full on wanted Carrie Kelly to be Robin from the start. Anytime that there's rejection of like maybe this isn't a good idea is from Alfred. And I can point out where it says in the panels.
I found it. Can confirm.
And every time he says, or you're fired, it's basically just like a dad-ism. It's just like, or you're fired. But he does not mean it at all.
So something that Spencer likes to talk about with this series is that Batman's basically like, she's going to be a good soldier like Jason was.
Yeah.
Militarized children.
Yes.
Yeah.
That is a big theme. It's interesting that that's kind of what we start our modern interpretation of Batman on, something that we've finally come back to in recent years. But like it was kind of avoided for a couple of decades there. This modern reinterpretation of Batman, which we all know kind of is like the beginning of where our knowledge of Batman started, is just militarizing children to be as soldiers. At least one of them's died before. That's pretty sketch. Carrie Kelly's 13.
Mm-hmm.
That's sketch. Like, you can understand how it happened. I think it's well implied what Bruce's like process to figure that out is, and you can understand like he's clearly a very traumatized individual.
Mm-hmm.
But it's one of those things that's kind of concerning. It's like, wait a minute, why are you just taking in kids to fight your eternal war that you know you can't win? I don't think there's really an answer for that. I find it to be a very interesting question. I feel like Two-Face being the first major villain we encounter is a really good way to ease back in. The book gets progressively more and more crazy. We start out with, obviously the mutants are kind of there from the beginning, but we start off with Batman taking down gangs, basically, just gangs, and then one of his classic foes, who has a much darker plan than he did previously, and then he takes on Joker, and then that whole thing goes crazy. And he fights Superman, a god, and then Bruce dies, in quotations, and, like, Batman becomes a legend. Like a full-out, not like, ooh, urban myth. Like, he's like a legend. It's kind of implied, like, everywhere. I think that, like, a ascension of going from a man to what is basically a god is absolutely bonkers, and I like how well it's done over only 4 issues. I think one of the best moments where that's kind of exemplified is at Bruce's funeral when Clark is listening and he realizes Bruce isn't dead, and I love that moment. It hits me in the feels. Because instead of going and reporting to the government or tracking Bruce down, he's like, essentially, well played. Like, you did good. Like, it feels like him, like, Superman is essentially handing Batman the title of God, like, almost. It's like, you beat me kind of fairly. I know what you're doing now, I understand. And I'm going to leave you alone. And I really like that dynamic. And it feels like a tangible reason why Batman can be such a legend now. Not just, he's scared enough criminals. He's beaten God. At least once.
There we go. And now God bends to my will.
I think that's one of the largest themes of the book. And I really appreciate that. And I do not think that has been done well ever since. I've never seen another version where that's done well, where it justifies Batman being like a mythological figure almost, not just spooky little ghost man. If that makes any sort of sense.
I agree with you.
I just feel like that transcendence through trial and tribulation and impacting so many different characters, whether it be, scaring the living crap and also kind of the life out of a lot of criminals and the mutants, and a lot of his villains, and kind of half killing one of them, sort of, and beating Superman. Like, his ascension to deity is, I think, personally, my favorite and my preferential interpretation of this book is this is how Batman becomes bigger than himself. It's not by just employing other people or having lots of Robins and like making a big Bat family or having Batman Incorporated. Those are all fine. There's nothing wrong with that. But I feel like Batman himself physically progressing through these incredibly strenuous trials that get bigger and bigger, that I feel like that is the way that he manually himself asserted his own like deity. And I just love that as a concept, and I feel like this book focuses on that in a way that nothing else has and probably ever will.
I like how Batman has a varying arsenal through the whole book. I think it's the first issue. He uses a gun, a long rifle, which ends up being a tightrope, but later he's using swords. He uses his fists, of course. He uses a tank a couple times.
Batman and Tank never gets old.
Right.
We love Batman and Tank.
Overall thoughts in like 2 sentences.
While it took me a while to realize the impact of this book, it is undeniable that this is one of the most monumental Batman books in existence.
This book is so influential, or it has influenced my outlook on Batman so heavily that any form of Batman that doesn't take inspiration from this or doesn't take anything from this book is not as good to it's in my eyes doesn't mount up to what Batman is. This book is Batman.
I think that the impact of the book outweighs its quality in and of itself. There are critiques that can be made on various elements. It's not really the point. I feel like it's a masterwork of art, clearly. But I think the fact that it's had such a lasting legacy on Batman, on comics, on graphic novels, on movies, and like superheroes as a whole, being one of the things that kind of kicked off the dark and gritty revolution of the late 80s, like, I think that legacy has... It exemplifies what the book is. It's about legacy and, like, ascension beyond ideas. And that's exactly what this book it did itself. It's more than the sum of its parts. Its influence and reach has what far outweighed its quality in and of itself. And that's just really bloody cool.
Speaking of God tier, let's talk about Loki. Episode 4?
3.
Dang it.
Jacob knows how to count.
I'm bad at math.
Yeah, so this episode, they are, they fight some of the TVA. They go through a portal, and they're, like, on a planet that's gonna die, gonna get smashed.
It's purple.
It's very purple.
It's purple.
Purple.
So they get stuck on a planet and need to escape. Loki, 2012 male Loki, has the device that they need. And female Loki, or Sylvie, has the knowledge to know how to charge the device. So they have like a temporary truce after nearly dying multiple times. They do lots of fighting. They're like crawling all over each other, smacking each other. It's very entertaining. And then they infiltrate one of the escape vehicles, the train that's trying to leave the planet. And they get up to some shenanigans, and ultimately they miss the escape vessel, and they're screwed. And that's the end of the episode.
I would like to take the floor and say this episode felt offbeat from the cadence the show has set. This seems to slow way down. The Loki and Sylvie argue a lot and talk a lot, and it's all good, but it's very different.
I agree. I think it's because of the presence of the TVA. They're only in the first couple of minutes, and then we don't see them for the rest of the episode. I think their lack of presence takes away the bigger urgency. Whereas the planet's dying and like they might not get off of it. Well, we know there's more of a series, so obviously they figure out something. But because we've been shown that there's so many like bigger consequences with like timelines than it just is with like a planet dying, it feels like this should feel bigger, but it doesn't because the TVA doesn't care kind of right now. They don't know where they are, and we don't intermingle between the two. One of the things that I noticed was the action honestly is not great. I really don't care though, which usually that kind of bugs me in a lot of Marvel properties is sometimes their action is very mediocre. But I feel like this show really doesn't need the action to be high quality to prop it up. It has really good tense moments, particularly in the first 2 episodes, but they're not based on the action in and of itself. It's based on the drama and the plot that's going on. And I feel like this episode does the same thing. Like, the action's fine. It's serviceable. There's nothing wrong with it. But I feel like it's... The show is not motivated by the action, like, whatsoever. And I really appreciate that. It's not focused on it. It just is an element.
Yeah, I was going to talk about that, too. They attempt a one-shot action sequence at the end, and it was very janky. The choreography was awful. You could tell people were stopping at their set spots to stop and let the camera run a circle around them, and it was so jank.
Definitely agree on that one.
My favorite part of this episode was Loki getting drunk on the Ark and singing some other language. I'm trying to look it up right now.
Asgardian.
Yeah, okay, but what's the real language? Norwegian, according to some Redditor. I trust them. It's Reddit.
Yikes.
Yeah, Tom Hiddleston was actually singing in Norwegian or whatever other language that was, and it sounded really good.
It was pretty good.
It was impressive. He actually sounded better in the other language than English.
I can definitely agree with that.
Very impressive performance.
That whole sequence on the Ark where it kind of slowed down for a few minutes, I feel like that was kind of like the highlight of the episode for a whole bunch of different reasons. But I really appreciated them just sitting there and like talking about their moms, which was pretty neat.
Instead of just arguing.
Yes.
Characters arguing for a long time annoys the crap out of me.
That is something I wanted to hit on. I feel like this show is really, really balancing a massive amount of arguing that they need to do, like the character tension between the two, without it being irritating. Because for me personally, I find the typically antagonistic, usually it's a female protagonist, who just clashes with the other protagonist for reasons usually unknown or like weird reasons or whatever. And they just kind of argue and bicker and like they play that off as like, it's sexual chemistry because people don't know how to write dialogue apparently. They can only know how to make them argue. And that's just like, they just like angry or whatever. Like that bothers me a lot. I think Colin and I talked about this a little bit last night.
You and Colin angry fight last night?
Maybe.
We talked about how much we hate angry fighting.
Yeah, like that sort of, they're just antagonistic, but they actually like each other. It feels like this is really nailing the balance of like, they argue a lot and like, yeah, she's kind of annoying, but it's a little endearing. Like, it doesn't irritate me when she's on screen, just the way she's articulating herself is annoying. And I appreciate that. It makes me actually want to follow this character. And also, I do actually think that they're just really bad at flirting. Like, I do think that they are flirting, but that's just me. The question is, if they do it, is that masturbating? Because they're the same person. Apparently, I have a theory on that.
They're not. It's Enchantress.
But aside from it just being Enchantress, the reason behind, I think, the fact that she's not a variant, I think there's 2 paths you can take. How would you get a female version of Loki? Aside, you have the easy answer is Loki's non-binary. He just changed his appearance. Bada bing, bada boom. That's an easy answer. I feel like they're not going to do that.
Nope.
The more serious answer I think they're doing is the TVA is full of shit, and there are multiple timelines running around, because that would have to be a whole different timeline from the start if she was born female.
Yep.
That's not how the timeline's been explained to work. They would have that can't be a branch.
And we've already been shown that they're full of shit, because she even told us that the people that work for the TVA were just people from Earth.
Exactly, and that explains Mobius's obsession with stuff from the 90s.
Mm-hmm.
I wonder what he's from, if they're going to link that to something.
So there's also a scene where we met this woman, and she called them devils. So right there, Mephisto confirmed.
Mephisto confirmed.
Definitely Mephisto confirmed. They're going to continue to lampshade that until the end of time.
Yes, I'm okay with that.
Yes, definitely.
And then he's just gonna like, it's gonna be like, I don't know, War Machine movie,
Oh my
like
God.
something absolutely down to earth. And then Mephisto's gonna be like drinking at a bar or something, and be like, "Yeah, what's up?" And that's it.
He's the new Howard the Duck.
Yes,
Oh, what about a Howard the Duck versus Mephisto movie?
love it.
I wouldn't mind that, actually. Especially with our version of Howard the Duck.
They just play beer pong, and Howard's the last one standing.
Dude, that'd be great. Any final thoughts on this episode?
I do not think so.
Nope.
Cool beanos. So on to Star Wars Bad Batch episode 9.
Mommy Assassin.
Oh my gosh. Colin, you have issues. So Cad Bane has taken Omega. Omega escapes from Cad Bane. Turns out Fennec Shand was also employed to get Omega, but they were hired by 2 different people. So Cad Bane was hired by, I believe it's the governor? Whatever, the big old head honcho, Kaminoan. The duderino.
The dude with the mohawk.
Yes, who just wants Omega for her DNA because she's a first-generation clone. It's her and Boba, and I think that's really, really cool.
I can't believe you didn't predict it.
I was really on the stupid Force-sensitive thing, and I'm glad
Wait,
it's not that.
How is she a first generation? Is it because she's like...
She's an unmodified clone, except for the fact that she's a female. She's aging normally, and she hasn't been. She doesn't have an inhibitor chip. She has no like programming. She's
Right.
Boba, just a clone of Django that grew up normally.
I understood it to be Boba's sister.
Essentially, yes.
No, like literally and physically.
What do you mean by that?
Yes.
Boba is a clone.
I thought he was a legit child.
No, he's a clone that doesn't have any
modifications.
They just Django. No.
Okay. I don't know.
No, Django just got a clone that was his boy, like the first clone apparently.
He's the alpha.
Boy. Yeah, the alpha. I really.
He's the alpha. That. She's the omega.
You get it? You get it? It's Christ symbolism. Zack Snyder's Bad Batch.
Wait, word.
It's poetic, truly.
If you do not,
everything's blue.
If you do not include a sexual sound after mentioning that, you are fired from editing.
Yeah. You'll need me. You'll still come crawling back to me.
Where did that bring you? Back to me.
I have a complaint to start off with because it's the only complaint I have. Ooh. There were backstabs upon backstabs and Kaminoans talking to bounty hunters, plural, with different intentions. And it was impossible to tell one Kaminoan from another. So I can't understand who is the good guy and who is the bad guy Kaminoan.
Okay, so the duderino, the guy in the dark attire, he's like the head boy.
The male.
Dark attire does not translate well over freaking hologram because it's blue.
He's got like a mohawk thing. He talks in like a nasally male voice.
Gay?
He is the bad guy, kinda. He wants her for her DNA so they can make more clones. Because this contract, seemingly, with the Empire is the only thing keeping like the Kaminoan economy moving, I would assume. And then I do not remember her name, but the medical lady. She wears like white and orange. She's got like the dot on the middle of her head, like the jewelry piece.
Yeah.
She hired Fennec Shand just to keep Omega safe, whether she gets her back or not seems to not really matter. She just wants whatever shenanigans they want to do to her to not happen. Which is cool because that's growth for her character since Clone Wars. She was a bitch. She was like, no, you can't take the chips out. You need the chips in their heads. She ends up being involved in the conspiracy against Fives, rest in peace. And like this cool character growth. I like it. She thinks the clones are like, living things. That's cool.
Nice.
Also looks like we had a Kaminoan clone in one of those tubes on that other planet.
Yep.
I was wondering about that.
I just a weird thought. It doesn't matter. What if like Kaminoans are kind of all clones of each other?
I'm pretty sure they
They're
are.
really similar. Like it doesn't really matter.
It would also make sense that they're the best people for cloning.
That would make sense. Maybe they're not able to like actually reproduce in their species for whatever reason, and they're kind of clones of different templates.
Also, Fennec Shand gets a naked, moist Kaminoan landed on top of her.
That was pretty oof.
That's
That
disgusting.
was gross. I think that thing was still alive too. I think just leave it. It looked
Yep.
like it was moving a little bit. That's gross.
So I'm pretty sure Cad Bane lands on Cloud City for this final showdown.
Not Bespin.
I thought it was too. It's not.
It's another Kaminoan like outpost. It's not Bespin.
That's uncool.
You're uncool.
But I really liked all of the fog effects
Yes.
in the city and
Spooky.
hallways and stuff. The only thing was the animation didn't really translate well for like people running through the fog and all the swirlies that would have happened, but
That's fair.
that's probably like an engine or animation restriction that I can completely understand.
Yeah,
I
I can
wouldn't.
definitely get that.
Yeah, it probably is something like that.
I think one of the cooler aspects of this episode is the fact that the unfinished animation that was originally going to be part of the Clone Wars of Cad Bane going up and having a showdown with Boba Fett is now officially canon, and it happened before this because now Cad Bane has a metal plate in his head, which is great. Good for headbutting women.
Yes.
Apparently. I love how like kind of decrepit and old he's getting. Like he's got a lot of robot parts now.
Mm-hmm.
You're a big old robot man. He got his jetpack boots. He likes beating up children and women. That's cool. I just like having the bounty hunters fight. It feels like they're integrating Fennec Shand into canon very well since she got really popular in The Mandalorian and whatever. It feels like it's just a natural extension. It doesn't feel like, ooh, we gotta ham fist this new popular character into it. She works in like the bounty hunter dynamic between the 12 bounty hunters that we have that I think we discussed last week.
Yep.
I think that's really cool. Omega was sad. She cried. She's very sad.
Also,
Upset child.
the fleshed out backstory for Omega confirms what we've been saying all along by calling the other clones Uncle Hunter, Uncle Wrecker.
Wait a minute. Wait. No, that would make them nephews.
Yeah, I was just thinking that. They're younger than her.
Because they're like Gen 2 or Gen 3, and she doesn't age that fast. So they're actually like 10.
I don't care. I'm sticking with a joke.
Also, robot with big head.
I thought Robot was so cute.
Robot with big head, no many thoughts.
He's adorable.
He falls on his head to get stuck on his head. I loved that. Oh.
This was a good episode.
Mm-hmm.
Very enjoyable.
So, Colin, what have you done this week on your own time?
Uh-oh.
Spaghetti-o.
Bruh.
I finished watching Yasuke.
Don't talk about your weeb shit. You finished Young Hellboy.
Oh, yeah, I did. Oh.
I'm just kidding.
I don't want to talk. Okay, I'm gonna shotgun it then. Okay?
Nice! Shotgun!
I finished the last two issues of Young Hellboy. The first two were much better. Last two were ham-fisted. Third one, awful art style, even though it was the same, but it was shitty because it wasn't taken care of. Story sucked ass. Doesn't exist. Never want to see it again.
Okay.
Moving on.
How do you spell a Yasuke?
Yasuke.
Isn't that Yasuki?
Nope, it's Yasuke.
What happens to the U? Yasuke.
Yosuke.
Continue.
Okay, so
Suck on these.
These nuts!
Oh, yeah!
Okay, so here's a short synopsis. In feudal Japan, a samurai warrior of African descent must return to his life of sword and violence in order to protect a mysterious girl from dark forces. So, this show is very, very loosely based off of the real life African American samurai, Yasuke. They mainly just use the name and the idea of it, and they make their own thing about it. So in feudal Japan, in this timeline, we also have humans with psychic abilities and robots. Giant robot samurais. And it's a 6-episode story. It's pretty short. The animation and the art is phenomenal. It's very vibrant, and the moves aren't very jagged. They're smooth, but they're quick. The fight scenes are really interesting. I wasn't actually very interested in the first episode. No, wrong. I was very interested in the first episode because the first scene opens up with the this great war between the I think it's pronounced Daimon, which is the bad guy psychic lady chick who basically made an undead army and is trying to take over Japan. So it begins in a great war between this Daimon, I think it's pronounced a Daimon demon, who basically raised the dead and raised an army and is fighting a regime of powerful psychic samurai clans and samurai robots versus samurai robots. And we get cut to Yasuke, who is having a very sad conversation with his lord, and his lord is like, I failed, blah blah blah, I commit seppuku. He takes out his sword, guts himself, and demands Yasuke to behead him. And so Yasuke does that, and we open up with Yasuke 20 years later in a shack, drunken and in despair, and finds himself as a boatsman helping this young lady and her mom get to a doctor because she's very sick. But we soon learn that she's actually the sickness is actually due to her powerful psychic abilities as they fight these bounty hunters that were sent after her from the Daimon. And that's where the first episode is basically ends. It's very compelling. I wasn't interested after that whole giant fight scene because it was slow, but it was just a slow build up to what was actually to come. Very good. I rated a 6 out of 7.
Oh my gosh, you're so stuck on that 7-star.
I like it. I like it a lot. Every star has a meaning.
What service did you watch this on?
I watched this on Netflix.
Nice.
Would recommend.
Jacob, what have you been up to?
So, I played Mommy Step On Me Simulator.
Oh! I've been wanting to get on that.
Uh-oh. I bet you have.
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
To the non-gamers, I played Resident Evil 8 Village. Made by Capcom. It came out April of 2021. So it is a direct sequel to Resident Evil 7. Ethan Winters has moved far away from wherever RE7 happened to live a happy life with his wife and kid, when suddenly Chris Redfield literally kicks down the front door and shoots Ethan's wife and kidnaps their kid. FBI, open up! and then kind of takes Ethan captive too. But he gets knocked out and wakes up in the middle of the woods because their van was attacked or something, and Ethan has to survive. So they live in a place with werewolves, or lycans as they're called in the game, and vampires and stuff. There's all kinds of new mythos in this game. It's not just zombies anymore, or mold, or whatever the other things were. Zombie dogs, killer plants.
Killer clowns from outer space.
Actually, I don't think the series has had killer clowns yet. That's probably the next one. So before I get into this, just for reference, I got like 3/4 of the way through the first Resident Evil. I took a break from it and then forgot where the last key was. I knew where it was when I took the break and then forgot when I came back and it was like completely lost. So it's definitely a game you have to play all the way through in like a sitting or two or you get lost. I finished number 2 remake. I got part of the way through 4, but the tank controls really frustrated me. I finished 7 and I've watched all the movies. So this setting is really, really good. Where it is in the world, I can't think of too many other games set in like a Transylvanian environment besides Castlevania or whatever, but you don't get the outside scenery that you get in this game. It's snowy and foresty and nice little villages and big gothic castles. It's really cool.
Are you telling me that Resident Evil 8 is set in a village?
Partially.
Wow.
The village is only a quarter of the game.
That's the hub world, right?
Kinda, yeah. A big thing about this game is that the boss fights made sense on the spot. You knew how to take it down. There was a visible effect instead of wondering if I'm missing some gimmick. Like, there were still gimmicks, but they were easier to understand. They weren't like hidden gimmicks and had me scrambling for the interwebs like, what am I supposed to do? The final scene gives an excellent balance of closure and cliffhanger. So if you're really concerned about spoilers, don't listen for 30 seconds, but this is the end of Ethan Winters' story.
No!
Yes. But
not my boy.
His daughter is all grown up, and it looks like they're gonna go with her story from now on. Maybe, probably. And it was nice. It came to a nice close, and you're like, oh, I could end there and be happy, but I kind of want to know what they're gonna do next. Very well done. Well balanced.
Wow.
So for things I didn't like, there was a lot of pop-in. Even on the PS5 version. Like, just running around and all of a sudden the cliffside doesn't look like it's straight out of the N64. Like, it was pretty rough in some places. Maybe because I was doing a lot of running, but that's kind of expected in a Resident Evil game, if you know what I mean. This game felt pretty freaking linear. There were several times where I came to a crossroads or fork in the road, and I'm like, I don't honestly know. I'll choose this way and then come back and go the other way. And it would play a cutscene and close off the door behind me, and I couldn't go the other way to find the collectible that was probably in there. Like, there were several times where I could not backtrack to go get the collectible that I just missed. So you kind of have to memorize or just use a playthrough guide to get all of the collectibles because the 50-50 shots suck. And there was my last complaint is that there was a surprisingly large arsenal, and that made upgrading the weapons pointless. So you could pay in-game money that you find everywhere to make your weapons, more powerful or more accurate or faster to reload or whatever. But after each large section, you would get another pistol that starts off at where your first pistol maxed out at for damage or whatever. So it's like, I didn't know that there were going to be so many weapons to choose from and I had upgraded my first couple weapons a lot and spent a lot of money when it turns out I didn't have to. So that was pretty frustrating. Hot take, they doubled down on Ethan cutting an appendage off and then just reattaching it with the healing water that they have. And
I saw that.
that's so funny to me because that was the most ridiculous thing out of Resident Evil 7. And going into this game, I'm like, oh my gosh, I hope they get rid of that because they're going for a more realistic feel than some of the other goofier entries. And they doubled down on it. And I was like, props. For a quick history lesson, Mommy, Lady Dimitrescu or whatever, was based on Countess Elizabeth Bathory, a Hungarian noblewoman who was born in Transylvania and lives from 1560 to 1614. According to History.com, her uncle taught her Satanism and her aunt taught her sadomasochism. So she had a lovely upbringing. She tortured many, many, many people just for the lulz and was untouchable until she wasn't. She was eventually tried, locked away, and died 3 years later in her cell. So, with all of that...
How would you rank this out of 2 mommy milkers? How many mommy milkers is this game?
What is the worth of 1 mommy milker?
Well, I mean, if there's only 2...
Yes. Is it possible to have 0 in this example? Or 3? I'm just setting a ground line.
On a scale of 1 to 2.
Yeah, that's basically what you did.
That's literally what I did.
What was the name of the chick that's based off of?
Oh, Elizabeth Bathory. It's right there.
Colin, stay away from the Rule 34.
Elizabeth.
No, actually, it's not horny.
I figured it wasn't.
You'll find it.
She's got the
Yeah,
big-ass
she's not horny at all.
collar or whatever.
Got the big ass fucking forehead.
Yeah.
Big target.
So my wrap up, it's kind of clunky. It's got a good story. It's got fun gameplay because it's in the new engine that they made, and it still looks good even though there's pop-in. I don't think it lives up to 7. If I had to explain it in one simple sentence, I would say it feels like a Hollywood remake of 4.
Ooh.
Yee.
But I don't mean that in all of its bad way. It still looks good. It still plays good, but it takes strong influence from 4.
And then puts it on cocaine.
But it's not 4, you know?
That's fair.
I think I got it for $45. Crap, I missed an asterisk. Doggone it. Forget. I think I got it for $45. I would say it's worth $25 to $30 unless you are a really big Resident Evil fan, in which case it's obviously worth full price.
Or if you're horny, and then it is worth
Not-
unlimited money.
Not really, because so you run through the village a little bit and you find a whole bunch of freaking stuff. And then you go to the castle and that's where Mommy is. But Mommy has 3 daughters. So you have to kill all 3 daughters. And after, I think, the first one, Mommy starts hunting you through the house. Ooh. So it's classic Resident Evil right there. The castle was a little bit small, by the way. It was a little...
Is it small or is she big?
Yes. A little bit of a letdown. But then you kill Mommy. Like, Mommy's basically the first actual boss. And then that's... I would say that's a 5th of the way through the game.
Wow.
Yeah. They sold the game on Mommy, and she's the first one you kill.
We've been tricked. We've been backstabbed. And we've been quite possibly bamboozled.
Marketing.
Yep.
Wow.
Yeah, they knew that we wanted a goth mommy milkers.
Yes.
Goth vampire mommy milker.
Yeah, goth vampire mommy milkers. Wow. Gothy milkers.
So, Spencer.
Yes.
What did you do this week?
I read Harley Quinn Black and White and Red. It is a 18-issue mini-series, sort of. They're like micro issues that was published in 2020. So this is a Harley Quinn version of Batman Black and White, which is a anthology series collected into collected editions. Yeah, that's what collected editions are. Of different creative teams, potentially from other continuities or just original teams, just doing their take on Batman or whatever other character. So I cannot believe it took this long to get a Harley Quinn like anthology thing. It took till 2020. That's insane. So it had a whole ton of different creative teams. I'm not gonna list them. I'm glad it finally exists. This is a really good character for this. It's all done in black, white, gray, and red. So that really helps with the visual flair. There's an issue that follows up on Harleen. That was amazing. There's also a White Knight issue that was also freaking awesome. She's gonna send Batman a Valentine card. This is post Curse of the White Knight. She's gonna send Bruce like a Valentine letter in the mail, and she doesn't, cause she's Harley Quinn. She does what she wants. It's great. So it's like their first meeting. It's really good stuff. There was I really did enjoy the color palette. Sometimes the whole like black and white and chrome or black and white and red, like those things can get kind of old, but I feel like for this character it worked really well. I also just don't like Harley Quinn with the pink and blue. I just don't like it. I've never liked. I get it, but I do like the classic colors. About a third of this book was pretty forgettable, if I'm being honest. There was one where took place in like a rap battle underground.
With Etrigan?
Who did she battle against?
I don't even remember. Like, there's stuff like that where if that's like your passion project, that's cool. Like, I enjoyed reading it, but a good chunk of it I'm never gonna remember. That was just weird. There was one issue where it was essentially Harley Quinn telling like a bunch of thugs how she would take down the Justice League, and I thought that was really fun. Like, it's very over the top Harley Quinn goofy ways, but just like how she would find this person and how she'd kill them that way and whatever. It's fun. It's nice to have just a collection of a bunch of different creative teams on a character that has really become insanely popular. It's crazy to think that Harley Quinn is like a cultural icon now. That's just crazy. So this book was $20. I feel like if you're either a Harley Quinn fan or like a semi-completionist, like you like anthology series, I think it would be worth it. If you're a normal person, it's good to read on alone. You probably won't go back to it though, except for a handful of the issues that are in continuity with something else. Oh, that was the other one. There was a issue that takes place in the Harley Quinn animated series timeline. It like slots into one of the episodes too. It's just like kind of her talking smack like the Legion of Doom, sorry. Because Lex Luthor is a dickhead. And like it was just that, except from her perspective, so it's way over the top. Bane and her hang out. It was nice. I enjoyed it. I'm glad I bought it, but I don't think I'd recommend it to somebody to buy unless they've already read it and like really want it for whatever reason.
Something I've been wondering lately is what is with DC and Marvel both releasing red, black, and white books? Because like Marvel's doing Black, White, and Blood or something, which is basically the same idea as the red, black, and white concept. But I mean, it makes sense in Harley Quinn's case. But like Marvel's doing it with a whole bunch of characters right now. I think DC did it with a couple others, if I remember right.
Yeah, DC has a lot of Batman Black and White. They just wrapped up Superman Blue and Red, and then at the moment there's a Wonder Woman Black and Gold, I think, whatever it is, or maybe it's White and Gold. Yeah, there's I have no idea what it is with Marvel. I didn't even realize that this was a thing. I'd seen it on a shelf. I didn't know it was like an ongoing thing. That's weird. I have no idea.
Marvel's doing it with Wolverine and Carnage.
And Deadpool.
And yeah.
That's a little strange. Why is it Wolverine? That's a little weird.
I don't know.
Carnage and Deadpool make sense. That's their color scheme. Wolverine is like, it's blood. I don't know. I have no idea where that's coming from. DC's been doing it for a while because Batman Black and White's been a thing, I think, since like the early 2000s. It's just every couple of years they bring it back for a few issues. I have no idea.
Okay.
I guess anthologies are becoming more popular or something.
I believe that is the end of this week's episode. Thank you to everybody listening. Thank you especially to our Patreons, Business Casual, Jeff Lawrence, and Wesley Eaton. We appreciate the support. There is a Patreon exclusive going up this week, left over from last week's episode. It was just a little bit too long and too dry of a rant to leave in the episode, and it gives our supporters a little something extra. So look forward to that.
Also, a big thank you to our partners over at Jetpack Comics and Games. They are fun. They're wonderful people. They like talking to us for whatever freaking reason. They have an excellent selection of comics, graphic novels, some books, merch, general nerd stuff, Pokemon, lots of D&D stuff, plenty of board games, all sorts of stuffage. And there's always a couple of nerds hanging around the store to talk to. So it's very appreciated that we have their support. And we will continue to give them our money.
I would like to publicly apologize to Jetpack. It's been a couple of weeks. I'm sorry. I should have called. But I will make it up to you by making an appearance within the hour.
Wow. Jacob, you freaking simp.
I need to go there to get Mr. Miracle.
Yes.
Do you want to go?
I kind of do.
We could hold hands.
Ooh.
You guys should definitely do that.
Want to go on a date? Short little date?
Triple date?
Yeah.
I was also planning to stop at the Mexican joint on the way to whatever it is. Because I haven't eaten today.
Me either.
Woo! It's a date.
It's a
Nice.
date.
That's excellent
I'll have
content.
I'll have to call Abby.
So feel free to follow us on all of the social medias. Give us all the clout. Interact. Give likes and follows and shares and stuff. We are on Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram. You can get behind-the-scenes content, teasers of upcoming episodes, as well as updates on stuff. And as Jacob said, also plenty of content over on our Patreon, if anyone wants to check that out. Feel free to send us an email at dimecomicbros@gmail.com. We have new merch coming out, sort of. We have new stickers coming out for all of our patrons, and if anyone wants to hop on those, they will be posted publicly. Colin has been working his ass off on some excellent new artwork for us, so we will have new business cards and new stickers. All of our social media will be getting updated. We will have a website coming shortly, so that's pretty cool. I gotta work on that. That's gonna time-consuming. So definitely shoot him some support. Even if you just spam lots of milk emojis underneath the pictures, it really goes a long way to building up Colin's ego.
The photo will also be on my Instagram, Melancholy Gray.
Gray with an E or an A?
An A, of course.
Yeah, we'll be plugging the hell out of your stuff this week, my dude.
Thank you, Daddy.
You're welcome, also Daddy. So next week, we will be discussing Blade, the 1998 movie about Mr. Vampire, half vampire with sword, gonna kill some vampires.
He kills them better than Ethan Winters does.
That is very, very true. Yeah, so that'll be the episode coming up next week, so definitely follow up and give that a listen. If you have made it all the way through this episode, please do leave us a comment on whatever platform you're listening to, probably YouTube, because YouTube's cool. What is your favorite part of The Dark Knight Returns, whether it be a character design or a specific issue, a concept, a panel, I don't know. Give us something. Interaction's good. Feed the algorithm for us. And that's it. Thanks. You guys are great. Nobody's hearing this. Activate meme time. 4K 60 FPS. Do the memes attract women?
Yes, misogyny.
We prefer the term neurologically limited.
COVID!
Strikes again.
Are we not allowed to say COVID?
No.
Or was that a while ago?
He said that a year ago when we started.
Yeah.
We're fine. Dude, we're not monetized at all anyway, so it doesn't
How could you forget a name like that?
Shut up.
I was already thinking, like, MCC, bro. You're going to be like, yeah, bro. And then we'll stay up until 9, and I'll go to bed, and you'll be like, all right, so time to edit the show until 2 a.m. Spencer, you've been
Alfred
awful
is
quiet.
against her.
I can't finish my f***ing points when you guys start bickering. One.
No, it's how he's pretending to lick it. It's very realistic.
Dude, my balls are so filled with piss right now.
Yep.
It hurts.
Yep. Why is Ghost of Tsushima still $40?
Because it's really, really fucking good.
Really?
Yeah. Ghost of Tsushima is great. That's what Assassin's Creed
Ghost of
should
Sushi.
be.
All right. Well, that coming from you means a lot. Because I heard a lot of people compare it to Assassin's Creed, and I'm just like,
No, like it's not the same, but it has some very similar influences. It's an insanely high quality game.
All right.